嗱，如果唔中意上天堂，天堂都會清實嘅。
衰㗎。
其實我哋成日四圍咁走，都應該揾翻個地方。
Hello everyone, it's Sid at Cool Moviegram. I thought I might as well get a quick review in before I head off to the gym, and today it's Once a Thief, directed by John Woo, 1991, starring Chow Yun-Fat, Leslie Cheung and Cherie Chung, Kenneth Chang and Chu Kong. This film is about three orphans who grew up to be international thieves, which are Red Bean Pudding, yep, believe it, that's his name, played by Chow Yun-Fat, Red Bean, played by the beautiful Cherie Chung, and James, played by Leslie Chung. And they steal priceless art for a living. And and there's kind of a love triangle going on because Red Bean is with Red Bean Pudding. They love each other, and James actually has feelings for Red Bean as well. The three of them embark on heist. It starts off in France, where you see them carry out a really interesting, cool heist of a valuable piece of art. And then they're goaded in to take part in this heist, and then finds out that they get double-crossed. And it kind of, you learn about the character's history, whereas they were raised by a man named Mr. Chow, played by Kenneth Chang, who's kind of their adopted father, who taught them how to become pickpockets as kids, but then also had come across a police officer played by Chu Kong, who they call Godfather, who kind of takes pity on them as he sees them steal bread for an old lady. And as this whole thing unravels, when they get double-crossed, they're ambushed, and then all of a sudden Red Bean Pudding is left for dead. And then, of course, this leaves the remaining two, which is Red Bean and James. They feel they're in grief, and they end up kind of developing feelings for themselves and eventually get married when they find out that Red Bean Pudding is still alive and now he's in a wheelchair. They start to kind of, they kind of become a trio again, but decide to get back at the person who betrayed them. Now, the plot is pretty simple. It's not really a complex kind of story. But what really kind of struck me about this film was how it was so fast-paced, and it was a lot of fun. You could tell that the cast involved had a lot of fun enjoying themselves making this movie. And the action sequences, of course, courtesy of Philip Kwok, who played Mad Dog in John Woo's Hard Boiled, and he was also the action director, the stunt coordinator for that movie too. And of course, he was the third Venom in the 5 Deadly Venom movie. So he was quite a big star back in the late 70s, early 80s, especially in Shaw Brothers movies. And yeah, the version that I have is the Hong Kong Legends DVD. Now, this movie came out. It was made because John Woo had the idea back during the days of Film Workshop, but Choi Hark decided, no, I don't want to go ahead with this. And he had also had an idea for a Better Tomorrow prequel, which was set in Vietnam during the war. That was also rejected by Choi Hark, and he decided to kind of make his own prequel to A Better Tomorrow, which was A Better Tomorrow 3, starring Chow Yun-Fat, Tony Leung Ka-fei, and Anita Mui. And this film came out. Once a Thief was after the disastrous outcome of Bullet in the Head, which was, I personally think, is one of his standout films in terms of for John Woo's filmography. It was very dark, it was very violent and nihilistic in a way, but the audience and the critics at the time did not appreciate it. But over the years, as fans have actually kind of delved into John Woo's filmography, they've seen how poignant and how impactful Bullet in the Head is. It's actually a really good film. It's actually very well appreciated, more appreciated than it is, well, than it was back then. And yeah, so he decided he wanted to do something a bit more light-hearted, something a bit more fun, a bit more happy. Now, it does have some interesting kind of like action sequences, such as, I think the car chase, which was filmed around from Paris and Nice, I think. It was very, well, it had that feel of a Bond movie, considering that they got the stunt coordinator who had actually worked on James Bond movies and actually did the car. They actually did it on a really small budget, but it actually still looks really good. It actually looks really impressive. And the scene where Chow Yun-Fat and Leslie Chung have to actually steal a painting by hanging off a chandelier, that was actually done really well. And the standout part in that scene was when they have to get away and they use red wine to check for lasers that are moving around, and you actually see them kind of moving in sync with music, which I think was a really clever and very slick way of editing and just coordination with the music. I thought it was pretty good. And Leslie Chung's actually really nimble in this movie. He's actually really kind of like shows a very acrobatic side to him. And especially with one scene, especially in the end shootout, where he actually flips up using the door frame, hanging off his legs, and then just shoots down with a shotgun. I thought that scene itself was actually pretty cool. And he just kind of, he's like a cat. He's almost like a cat, just coming back down onto his feet, and then it was actually really kinetic. I mean, the action in this film, I mean, the shootouts are actually done pretty well. They're done really well, and of course, you can't really compare it to the likes of A Better Tomorrow, The Killer, Hard Boiled, because those movies, the fight, the action sequences and the shootouts had a lot more blood involved as well. Whereas this one, there's a lot of explosions, but it's kept kind of lighthearted. Even when they shoot people, there's not much blood squibs just popping up everywhere, and it's not much of a high body count in comparison to the usual expectation of John Woo films. Sorry. Yeah, and it's quite interesting to see how, like, this time around you got these characters like, for example, Leslie Chung and Chow Yun-Fat. They play totally opposite characters to who they normally portray, especially in particular with John Woo films. They're not playing, Leslie Chung is not playing this innocent kind of wide-eyed, you know, tortured soul, or sometimes those are the kind of roles that he's known for playing. This time around he's actually playing like just a badass, you know, art thief. And Chow Yun-Fat is just playing this carefree, humorous kind of guy who loves life. And it does pretty well because, of course, the Western audience is more inclined to seeing Chow Yun-Fat, especially during the 90s and when he had actually had a breakthrough in the West, as playing like this no-nonsense kind of like badass with honor. It's not a heroic bloodshed movie at all. And yeah, it was interesting to see that they also had fun in making this movie, because you could tell that there was this very kind of light-hearted kind of feel throughout the whole movie. You know, in comparison to like you know, Chow Yun-Fat actually losing his shit on Hard Boiled, where he decided after the hospital explosion scene at the end that he was never going to work with John Woo again, but then was thrilled to see the outcome of the film itself. But yeah, this was like not as dangerous. I don't see there was any danger, but you see like a very more humorous side where Chow Yun-Fat actually also kind of lampoons Bruce Lee and kind of gives like a Wong Fei-hung kind of nod to his character, especially in the end where he uses like a kind of like an extending pole in a fight sequence, and also yeah, he does some impressive kicking, which I do think was, or you could tell in some of the, because of the shots when he does these spinning kicks, you could tell it was done by a double. Yeah, And of course, Cherie Chung, I mean, she's playing the love interest. I mean, like, as atypical of most John Woo films, the female characters don't really have much to do or say. She's just like playing the love interest, and she just looks beautiful. And but she carries her role off pretty well. Kenneth Chang plays this really menacing kind of character who's this disciplinarian that kind of force these kids into like stealing and teaching them how to kind of steal. Chu Kong, he kind of plays this really kind-hearted police officer who kind of takes mercy and pity on these young kids. Yeah, well, and on top of that, the DVD I have is the Hong Kong Legends out of print special collector's edition, which was released in 2004, which was a year after Leslie Chung had actually committed suicide. Rest in peace. I mean, of course, it kind of has an interview up close and personal, an exclusive interview with the director John Woo, which I thought, just alone is actually quite interesting, because he kind of goes over the memory of actually making this movie, and then also talks about working with Chow Yun-Fat and also Leslie Chung, and also experiencing his experience of like working with Leslie Chung, how his relationship was with him, and how he kind of like, Leslie Chung actually looked up to John Woo as like a mentor, almost like and John Woo saw him as a younger brother. And it was quite tearful to see like how John Woo kind of felt, about just explaining about Leslie Chung and how great, how much of a kind person that he was. And of course, when he got the bad news of Leslie Chung's suicide, and how it kind of affected him whilst making the movie Paycheck in Hollywood. And of course, you got an interview with Terence Chang, who kind of also reminisces making this movie, and how they were surprised that they made the movie in such a short time, within a space of 4 months, before getting the Chinese New Year release, and it ended up being such an instant success. And there was also a touching tribute from Bay Logan called Walking Through the Shadows on Leslie Chung himself, and kind of goes over his kind of like just a brief overview of his career and the personality that he had, and how much of an impact his death had on the whole Hong Kong cinema kind of industry as well. Of course, the film itself, I mean, the transfer is really good. Of course, being with Hong Kong Legends, their transfers for DVDs, especially when it comes to Hong Kong movies, we're a cut above the rest when it comes to competition. Not many companies at the time could actually match the level of like transfers that Hong Kong Legends did. And of course, you got the Cantonese, you got the English dub. I think they're all 5.1 as well. So hey, beggars can't be choosers, but still, it's a good 5.1 mix. And you also got a feature-length commentary from Bay Logan, which was pretty. It was interesting. His commentaries, especially on the Hong Kong Legends DVDs, have always been detailed. He could tell you about almost anything and everything about any of the actors in set, the actual locations that they shoot the film in. He's very resourceful. I mean, his book, which was the a Hong Kong action cinema book, that's actually so detailed and gives a lot of information. Yeah, I mean, I would give the film, maybe it's not, I wouldn't say it's on the same level as his best movies, which are A Better Tomorrow, The Killer, Hard Boiled, Bullet in the Head. Those are like the best John Woo films of all time. But I would say it's kind of like just a cut above his Hollywood efforts. So I would give this Once a Thief movie, I would give it about 3.5, pushing to 4 out of 5. So between there. Because this film was inspired a lot by the 50s French capers that John Woo loved, because he loved French cinema, and especially of like the 50s and 60s. So it kind of added that kind of like silliness, but also the slickness of the action that is expected from Hong Kong action movies at the time as well, which was more or less when Hong Kong movies were at the top of their at the top of the game. Well, yeah, that was my review. And I would say the DVD itself, it's definitely a 5-star DVD. Really good. Just for the tribute to Leslie Chung, the commentary, and also John Woo's interview. really, really interesting. Really, really well worth seeking out. Right, yeah, that was my review of John Woo's Once a Thief. Please be sure to follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my YouTube, comment, and what was your thought on this film if you've seen it, and also which John Woo movies would you say are your all-time favorites? I mean, how would you rank them? Please let me know. Well, thank you very much, and see you on the next video.